Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today we'll be watching a video titled When Was Jesus Crucified? Supposed Bible Contradiction number 21. This is again a continuation of a series of videos that I am watching in understanding the Christianity, concept, teaching, etc. So without further ado, let's watch.
Supposed Bible Contradiction. At what time was Jesus crucified? The Synoptic Gospels seem to be in agreement on the timeline of what happened the day Jesus died. At about 9 a.m., the third hour, Jesus was crucified. Then darkness fell over the land at about 12 p.m. Then Jesus died at around 3 p.m. or the ninth hour. However, John said...
Wait, so Jesus was crucified, meaning put on the cross, right? And then darkness, what happened? Meaning the whole place, the whole world becomes dark, or it is night hour or something. But 12 p.m. is not night, right? So meaning there's eclipse or something, and then at 3 p.m. Jesus died. So is it dying from? Because I don't know. Obviously I do not know the story in the Bible, right? So meaning the crucified. What kills someone on the cross? Is it because the nail on your hand or something that you bleed to death, or on top of being on the cross, there's something else that also is slowly killing someone, or etc. I don't know, because here it's already died, right? So feel free to comment on that, because I have no background on this to even put this into context. Anyway,
it says Jesus wasn't crucified until after the 6th hour.
Jesus still before Pilate, meaning not yet crucified, not yet on the cross. Okay, so that understand how it is contradiction.
In John 19:14, it reads it was the 6th hour, and Jesus was still before Pilate. So does John contradict the Synoptics on when Jesus was crucified? Well, the common reply is to assert that John is using the Roman system of timekeeping and counting from midnight instead of from dawn. So it was 6 a.m. when this happened, and John would be in agreement with the Synoptics. But this actually creates more problems than it solves, because the trial of Jesus included several stages, and all the Gospels agree this started once the day began. At night, he was questioned by the high priest and the Sanhedrin. But then all four agree that once the day began, they took him to Pilate. From there, Pilate questioned Jesus, sent him to Herod for questioning, then sent back to Pilate for more questioning. Barabbas is then released, and then Jesus is flogged and mocked, and then sentenced to death. It is very unlikely this all happened within an hour, so John could assert it was about 6 a.m. John is probably referring to around noon, which would allow enough time for the events described to unfold. So why does Mark say this happened 3 hours earlier? Scholar Craig Blomberg has a better idea. Both Mark and John are probably estimating and speaking of time in quarters. With an ancient understanding of time, both would be understood in their culture to be claiming roughly morning or midday. The main problem is we are imposing precise timekeeping expectations on an ancient culture, and this really isn't charitable. It is not like anyone had watches back then to know exactly when these things were happening. So ancient people were very flexible in timekeeping, and an hour could really mean a large span of time.
So they have that, meaning this is because if they have the term already, first hour, second hour, third hour, whatever, but it's still a wide range. Is that what it means? Because I do understand if a certain culture do not even the language itself is not in the term of first hour or third hour or whatever. It's like if you have during duha time, during fajr time, meaning that is the description of the reality, right? It's just sunrise, etc., right? It's not like 6 hour or something. So that's interesting if you want to put it both simultaneously in that sense.
For example, James R. Madinger says, modern time is often characterized by both a unit of length and a point in time. An hour is composed of 60 minutes, or a day is 24 hours. These are lengths in time. Saying that it is 3:30 is a point in time. The ancients did not use either term precisely. Rather, they saw time as duration, a short time, or a long time, or no time. He notes the 6 hour was seen as about noon. But J.B. Bury noted,
But that also already have, if you say that, that already indicates that it is divided into 12 hours, right? Wouldn't it be? You say, oh, 6 hours in one noon, meaning if you imagine, oh, it's the 6 hour, then the 12 hours is that, because we see the clock here, right? Then we can imagine 6, it's half. So I'm trying to understand whether how to make sense of what is being explained.
that the 6 hour was seen as about 11 o'clock our time. The point being made is the ancient cultures really didn't care about precise timing and referred to units like the 3rd or 6th hour to really mean any time around that time of the day. Days were divided into 12 hours, and people generally rounded to the 3rd, 6th, 9th, or 12th hour.
Oh, so, okay, so meaning that they already have the division of 12 hour. However, they are not being precise of what is 3rd, what is 6th. Is that what is being implied by this video?
Flavio Conti says, the Romans did not give time, or to be more precise, the measurement of time, the absolute and authoritative value that we grant it today. In the Gospels and Acts, with a few exceptions, the hours that are most referred to note the time are the 3rd, 6th, and 9th hour. In other words, they tended to round to one of those hours instead of worrying about the exact timing. Thus, Craig Blomberg says, when one recognizes that the widespread lack of precise timekeeping devices in the ancient world led to the practice of dividing the day into fourths so that people often did not worry about speaking any more specifically than this, it becomes plausible to interpret Mark's 3rd hour to mean any time between 9 a.m. and noon. John's about the 6th hour will also then refer to some time before midday, perhaps within an hour or so. In other words, the ancient audience would not have cared about precise timekeeping. The message was clear. It was probably around mid-morning when Jesus was sentenced to be crucified. Mark rounds down to the 3rd hour, and John rounds up to the 6th hour. E. Randolph Richards and Brandon J. O'Brien note timekeeping outside of Western cultures is never precise and is always general estimates. The Greeks themselves were more interested in aspects rather than timing. Gerald Borchardt observed this same phenomenon as a missionary among people who do not wear watches, and for whom a designated meeting time of 10 a.m. means sometime in the middle of the day, and it can actually take place not in the morning, but in the early afternoon. Once we leave our modern Western expectations at the door and realize ancient people didn't calculate precise times like we do, we can see within their culture this would not have been seen as a precise timestamp, but a general time period that an event happened around. Thus, within their cultural context and not ours, there really is no contradiction.
Alright, yeah, so that's the video. As usual, okay, this is just to clarify for some, right? Because some actually assume that I watched this video to find the contradiction, while if I want to find the contradiction, I wouldn't watch a video made by a Christian channel to show that it is not a contradiction, right? So so feel free to go into the description box below to see the context of this video, why I'm watching this, right? Anyway, so just like I'm saying this because just like in any other video, most of the time I don't really know or aware of this supposedly contradiction brought forth by who, and I have little take or little interest in the contradiction to begin with. So normally my reaction is just to understand what's going on, what's the claim, and what's the solution, I guess. Anyway, yeah. But I have spoken my the thoughts on how to make sense of that. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time.